All right, hey guys, how you doing? Welcome back. So today I want to talk to you about your digestive system. And why? Because your digestive system is one of your most important channels of elimination. Obviously, it's where we put all of our food, and if we are eating the right kinds of food and supporting this whole process of digestion, absorption, utilization, and elimination, then we have a really healthy, flowing, vibrant digestive system. And as a result, we are healthy, flowing, and vibrant individuals. However, that's not the case for a lot of us. We don't eat the right foods. We cause a lot of distress and dis-ease in the digestive system. So I want to talk to you about why this river of life is so important, why elimination is so important, and what is actually the best way for us to look at our colon health or our digestive system's health. Most people will say it's a colonoscopy. I disagree. I actually think the best way for us to look at our digestive system and our colon is by looking at our eyes. Because your eyes are going to show you, without invading your body in any way, where the inflammation, if there is any, where it is, and how long it's actually been there. So it's a really accurate, really easy way for us to look at our internal health, and it's sitting on our face. So without any further delay, let's have a look and see what the eyes are actually showing us. Alrighty, so digestive system. So the four essentials that I really like to talk about when we're talking about digestive system is the actual process that the food goes through when we eat. And there's these four main steps. Obviously, the first one is digestion. When we chew our food and it enters the body, it starts that digestive process. And this is that process where we actually start to break down and extract the vitamins and minerals and nutrition from our food. The second one is absorption. So after we've digested that food, are we actually absorbing it properly? Is our small colon, our small intestine, clean and healthy and able to absorb that through the colon wall? Or do we have obstructions in the form of plaque? Do we have parasitic overgrowth? Do we have an actual blockage in the colon wall from the lymphatic system? A lot of us have deficiencies in different micronutrients, and we go off and we look for supplements and we look to replace those or fix those deficiencies by eating more of those foods, or eating those things in isolation, like iron and calcium and zinc and things like that. But really, what we should do before we ever decide that we have a deficiency is first look at our ability to absorb food. Because if we don't absorb food, then yeah, sure, you will have a deficiency in something potentially. So first we need to fix this. We need to really look and see if we have an issue in the colon, in our lymphatic system, and if that is affecting our ability to absorb all these different micronutrients. So utilization is really important as well. This is where we actually absorb the food, and is that food being utilized and carried to cells? Is it actually being received by cells once it's in the bloodstream? This is definitely the most important, because we could eat a perfect diet, we could do all this perfectly, but if we're not eliminating, then eventually that's going to start to build up into the digestive system, and all of these will now start to become affected, and we won't utilize, we won't absorb, and we won't digest food anywhere near as well, simply because it's just starting to build up in the digestive system and cause inflammation, cause gas, just really disrupt that whole process. So if we want to really quality colon health, then we need to focus on eliminating all the waste that's inside of us. And the average person, I don't know what the exact number is, so I'm not even going to try and quote it, but the exact person has a significant amount of waste in their digestive system, and I know that based on my own work with my clients, because I can see it in their eyes. And the average person that comes to me anyway, or every person that comes to me, has an issue with their digestive system that they're telling me of, and then I can see it in their eyes as well. So the colon is a reflex. This is your large colon, and it's a reflex to the rest of the body. As you can see, you've got all these little reflex points on the colon, and what happens is when this starts to fill up, this is the final exit point right here. When this starts to fill up, slowly it starts to build up with mucoid plaque, and it starts to build up with undigested food, and it'll start to expand. and it'll start to put a lot of pressure on these reflex points. And what can really happen is we can start to have issues in other areas, organs and glands and tissues of the body, and it's often coming from the colon. Often as well, we can have pain in certain areas, and we can have these like acute symptoms. You might have like a pain on your shoulder, or a pain in your head, or a pain in your back, or somewhere in the body. And it pops up kind of out of nowhere. And it might pop up after you've eaten a lot of food. You might feel like uncomfortable in the belly, and then something else kind of pops up as well. And it's really more often than not coming from the digestive system. And if we can actually clean this out and get relief from all that constipation, you'll find that pressure, or that acute kind of symptom that came up, will often go away as well. That's why I really love using home enemas. Not every day, obviously, but it's something really great to use when you are having a digestive issue. If you feel backed up, if you haven't had a bowel movement all day, I really like the use of enemas and just getting relief from whatever it is that's just come up. Maybe like within the last kind of 6 hours, 12 hours, that kind of thing. If it's a chronic issue, then of course it's going to take a bit more than an enema or a colonic to get rid of. We'll need to do some deep cleaning, but they're really great tools to just overcome, something in the short term. So when we're looking at the eyes, we can see the colon just around the pupil. And what I love about this actually is the fact that your colon is in the eyes is right around the pupil, just like it is right around the pupil and at the center of the eye, just like it is at the center of your body, because of that reflex. So our colon, we just talked about, feeds the entire body, and we can see here it's at the center of the body because of that reflex, and because the way that it feeds your brain, and it feeds your lungs, and it feeds your kidneys, and all the different organs and glands and tissues are affected by your colon health. So our transverse colon directly affects our brain area, and our small intestine here directly affects the thyroid and the throat, and the ascending colon directly affects the lungs and the breast. So it's so important that we keep our colon clean as best as we can, and the rest of the body is just going to be so much better off and receive so much better nutrition and nourishment instead of constantly pushing out inflammation. So let's actually have a look at the eyes. Here we can see the colon wall. First thing I see when I see this colon wall is that, it looks pretty kind of, the shape is a little bit irregular. It's not really a nice circle around the pupil. And you can see the actual wall itself is somewhat yellow and inflamed. And, these colors, if you don't know anything about iridology, these colors are a sign of inflammation, and it showing you the stage of inflammation that that person's body is in. It starts off as white, then it turns yellow, then it turns this orange, which is a chronic color. And you can see really clearly, this is that relationship that I'm talking about. This is that reflex. See where it's all become quite chronic in this area. And not only has it become chronic that we can see with the color orange, but you can see like where it's become most chronic is where this bowel wall is really starting to push out. And this person also has a lot of genetic weaknesses in that area as well. So these tissues were most likely weaker to begin with at the point of conception because of this person's genetics. And this is genetics from mother. This is the left eye. And so that means these tissues would have been weaker at conception. And when this person started eating the wrong foods and causing inflammation in their own body, these are the ones that tend to go down first because they started off at the weaker position. So this person's got some work to do to really clean the bowels out and bring some health and some vitality back to the bowels. Take the pressure off the lungs out here. Bring back the strength of this colon wall so it's not ballooning out anymore. Really clean out all these little pockets in the diverticula where you can see these little dark spots. That's where all that plaque, the mucoid plaque, is sitting. So we need to get that off, and then this person will absorb food better as well. And this guy he was told he had Crohn's disease. This is the exact place that he feels the pain, right in that small intestine there on the left-hand side of the body. So the eyes don't lie. This guy, you can see this is a blue eye, really vibrant blue eye, but then even this person's got a lot of this kind of white, cloudy, patterning all over it, which is a sign of all that lymph congestion. But we can see here the colon, and this person's colon's got a bit better of a shape to it, but there's a lot of this little yellow stuff, these little yellow bits. And when it's this kind of yellow, it's very often that it's sulfur, and that sulfur is a byproduct of pharmaceuticals. Most of the time it's from the use of antibiotics at any stage of this person's life. When they took antibiotics, and that sulfur stays in the digestive system, and it's really inflammatory, this stuff. It gets stuck in the bowel wall. It affects our ability to digest food, absorb food. It's very mucus forming. This is like a bit of a fungus proliferator as well. And this guy was told he had colitis, and this guy's actually a friend of mine, and he has a real problem with digesting anything other than fruit. Anything more than fruit, and his body is just in pain. So he's on a bit of a fruit fast to heal this all up, and he's doing really well. But he's got a ways to go. You can see some ballooning in this area as well. You can see some pockets of plaque. So I hope that was helpful, guys. It's a bit of an overview of how the eyes actually show what's happening in the colon. And, I really recommend having someone look at your eyes to see what your colon looks like, and the rest of your body as well. But eyes are always going to be the best way, in my opinion, the least invasive way, and perfectly accurate, and everything you need to actually determine what's happening in the body. We don't really need much more than the eyes if we're just trying to determine what our overall health is like, and then make a plan on the back of that to improve it. So yeah, I hope that's been helpful. If you've got any questions, just drop them in the comments section, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next video.